The Great War had raged for 300 years across thousands of star systems. Space itself seemed to weep as endless fleets of crystalline ships clashed with the sleek vessels of the coalition forces. Today was no different, as another battle lit up the darkness of space in the Orion arm of the galaxy. Admiral Stone of the coalition forces watched from his command ship as bright flashes of plasma fire painted the void. His aged face reflected the distant explosions in the bridge's viewport. "Another day, another deadlock," he muttered, his white beard moving slightly as he spoke. The crew around him worked in silence, too used to the routine of battle to show any emotion. Across the battlefield, Commander Ray of the Crystalline Empire sat in her crystal throne, her ships arranged in their usual perfect geometric patterns. The light from nearby stars reflected off her translucent skin, creating rainbow patterns across the bridge. "Send in the third wave," she ordered, her voice carrying the weariness of someone fighting a war older than themselves. Between their fleets, space turned into a light show of destruction. Green plasma beams from the coalition ships splashed harmlessly against crystal shields. In return, purple energy bolts from the Empire's vessels dissipated against the coalition's bubble defenses. It was like watching two master boxers throw perfect punches that their opponent always blocked. A young officer approached Admiral Stone. "Sir, we've lost 30 ships. They've lost 28. He paused, checking his datapad. "Just like yesterday and the day before." Stone nodded slowly. He had been fighting this war for 40 years, and his father had fought it before him. The numbers were always similar. Neither side could gain a real advantage. Their weapons and defenses had evolved together, always staying just balanced enough to prevent victory. In the Empire's fleet, Commander Ray received similar reports. Her ship's crystal cores hummed with power, their energy levels exactly matched to counter the Coalition's weapons. Their scientists had spent generations perfecting their technology, yet somehow the Coalition always managed to match them. 300 years, Ray whispered to herself. 300 years of perfect balance. The battle continued as it always did. Ships danced through space in choreographed patterns, firing weapons that would have destroyed planets in the early days of the war. But now they barely scratched the paint on enemy vessels. Both leaders knew the truth that nobody spoke aloud. They had reached a point of technological stagnation. Every improvement one side made was quickly matched by the other. Their civilizations had become so focused on countering each other that they had stopped thinking about new ways to fight. The death toll from the war had reached billions. Entire planets had been evacuated, solar systems abandoned. Yet neither side would surrender. The Empire fought for order and unity, believing their crystalline technology should guide the galaxy's future. The Coalition fought for freedom and diversity, refusing to bow to the Empire's rigid control. As the battle entered its 5th hour, Admiral Stone ordered his ships to fall back, just as Commander Ray ordered her fleet to regroup. They would fight again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next. Their massive fleets, numbering thousands of ships each, would continue their deadly dance until something changed. But what could change? Both civilizations had thrown everything they had at each other. Their best scientists worked endlessly to find advantages. Their bravest soldiers fought and died trying to break the stalemate. Their most brilliant strategists planned and plotted, only to see their plans matched by the enemy. Neither side knew that change was coming. Neither side could have guessed that a young species, just reaching for the stars from a blue planet called Earth, would soon stumble upon their endless conflict. And none of them could have imagined that this young race would see something so obvious, so simple, that it would break 3 centuries of warfare in just 5 hours. The battle ended for the day, like thousands before it. Ships retreated to safe distances, crews rested, and commanders planned for tomorrow. The war continued as it always had, as everyone thought it always would. They were wrong. The probe Star Walker 1 drifted silently through space, mankind's first faster-than-light explorer. In the mission control room on Earth, Dr. Thomas watched the incoming data with tired eyes. For 6 months, The probe had sent back nothing but empty space and lifeless planets. Today was different. "Sir," called out one of the younger scientists, nearly knocking over his coffee. "You need to see this." The main screen lit up with an impossible sight. Massive ships, some larger than Earth's biggest cities, filled the view. Beams of green and purple energy crisscrossed space between them. The room fell silent as Earth's first glimpse of alien life turned out to be a massive space battle. "Record everything," Dr. Thomas ordered, his voice barely a whisper. "And someone wake up the military." Within hours, the control room filled with officers and government officials. They watched in awe as the probe's advanced sensors captured detailed readings of the battle. The ships seemed to be evenly matched, their weapons and shields perfectly balanced against each other. Captain Miller, a military analyst, leaned forward in his chair. "Look at their firing patterns," he said, pointing to the screen. "They're not trying to win. They're just going through the motions." Dr. Thomas nodded. "The energy readings are strange too. Both sides are using nearly identical technology. Their weapons and shields operate on the same principles." In the back of the room, a young engineer named Jack raised his hand. He had been scribbling calculations on a notepad for the past hour. Sir, I think I see the problem." Everyone turned to look at him. Jack walked to the main screen, his hand shaking slightly as he pointed to the energy patterns. "They're both using plasma-based weapons against energy shields. But look here, they're channeling the plasma wrong. It's like trying to cut down a tree with another tree." More data poured in as the probe continued recording. The human scientists watched as both alien fleets repeated the same tactics over and over. Their technology was incredibly advanced, but they had locked themselves into a single way of thinking. Their whole war is based on who can make slightly better shields or slightly stronger plasma weapons, Captain Miller realized. They've forgotten that there might be other ways to fight. Dr. Thomas turned to his computer and pulled up designs for Earth's small but growing fleet of spaceships. Unlike the alien vessels, human ships were built around simple principles: kinetic weapons, gravity manipulation, and solid projectiles. They were less advanced, but they worked in completely different ways. "They would never expect physical projectiles," Jack said, getting excited. "Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons, not solid objects. And look at their ship formations. They're perfect for blocking plasma shots, but they'd be horrible against gravitational attacks." The room buzzed with activity as more experts arrived. They spent hours analyzing the alien battle footage, finding more and more flaws in their fighting style. It was like watching two master chess players who had forgotten that other board games existed. "Should we contact them?" someone asked. The question hung in the air. Earth's fleet was small, just 50 ships. The alien armadas each had thousands, but every human in that room could see what those ancient civilizations had missed. Sometimes the simplest solution was the best one. Admiral West, who had been quietly watching until now, stood up. "Prepare a briefing for the World Council," he ordered. "They need to know two things. First, there's a massive war heading toward our part of space. Second, we might be able to stop it." As the room cleared out, Dr. Thomas stayed behind, watching the eternal battle on the screen. Humanity had dreamed of meeting alien life for centuries. Now they had found it, locked in an endless war that simple human ingenuity might be able to end. The Star Walker 1 probe continued its silent watch, recording the battle that was about to change forever. In just a few weeks, humanity would step onto the galactic stage. And in just 5 hours, they would show these ancient civilizations that sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to think differently about it. The World Council chamber buzzed with tension. Representatives from every nation on Earth sat around the massive circular table, watching as Admiral West presented the evidence from Star Walker 1. The giant screen behind him showed scenes of the alien war that had raged for 3 centuries. "We have 3 options," the Admiral said, his voice firm. "Hide and hope they don't find us. Run and try to escape their war. Or," he paused, Looking around the room, we can help end this conflict. President Rogers of the North American Alliance stood up. End their war. We have 50 ships. They have thousands. That's not bravery. That's suicide. Numbers aren't everything. Dr. Thomas stepped forward, pointing to a new image on the screen. Look at their ships. Beautiful, powerful, and completely predictable. They've been fighting the same way for hundreds of years. The room filled with murmurs as Dr. Thomas showed detailed scans of the alien vessels. Their shields only stop energy weapons. Their formations only protect against plasma attacks. They've forgotten that space combat can be different. Jack, the young engineer from the Discovery team, now stood before the world's leaders with more confidence than before. He had spent the last week running simulations. Our kinetic weapons would pass right through their shields, he explained. Our gravity weapons would tear apart their perfect formations. They wouldn't know how to fight us. Or we could just stay quiet, suggested another leader. Let them fight their war somewhere else. Admiral West shook his head and pressed a button. A new map appeared, showing the spread of the alien war across the galaxy. Red dots marked battles, spreading slowly but steadily toward Earth's sector of space. The war is coming our way, he said gravely. In about 50 years. Earth will be caught in the middle of it. We can either deal with it now, on our terms, or wait until we're forced to fight on theirs. The council chamber fell silent. On the screen, another alien battle played out, the same tactics repeating endlessly. Humanity watched their future approaching, one plasma blast at a time. President Rogers spoke again, softer this time. If we do this, what's the plan? Captain Miller stepped forward with a tablet. We've designed a three-phase strategy. First, we position our ships between their fleets. Then we demonstrate our weapons, showing we can hurt them but choosing not to. Finally, we offer them a way to end their war. And if they decide to fight us instead? Someone asked. Dr. Thomas smiled slightly. Then we show them why thinking differently is important. Our 50 ships might not be able to defeat their fleets, but we can certainly show them that their way of fighting isn't the only way. The council debated for hours. Some argued for isolation, others for preparation. But as the day went on, more and more leaders began to see the opportunity before them. Humanity had a chance to make a difference, to save billions of lives, and to introduce themselves to the galaxy as peacemakers. As the sun set outside the council chamber, President Rogers called for a vote. The question was simple. Should humanity intervene in the great alien war? The votes appeared on the main screen, nation by nation. Yes, yes, yes. A few no votes appeared, but the trend was clear. Earth had made its decision. Admiral West stood at attention. I'll begin fleet preparations immediately. We'll need 2 weeks to ready our ships and crews. As the council members left the chamber, Dr. Thomas and Jack stayed behind, watching the eternal battle on the screen one more time. Do you think we can really end their war? Jack asked. Dr. Thomas nodded. Sometimes the biggest problems need the simplest solutions. They've been fighting for so long, they've forgotten how to think differently. He turned off the screen. We're about to remind them. Outside, the sun had fully set, and stars filled the sky. Somewhere up there, 2 ancient civilizations continued their endless war, unaware that a young species from a small blue planet was about to change everything. In 2 weeks, humanity would join the battle. And 5 hours after that, 3 centuries of war would end. Earth's fleet of 50 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the battlefield. Admiral West stood on the bridge of the flagship Earth's Hope, watching the massive alien armadas in the distance. Their ships glowed with purple and green energy, continuing their eternal dance of destruction. Send the message, he ordered. Both versions, both languages, just as we practiced. The communications officer pressed a series of buttons. The message, carefully crafted over the past 2 weeks, went out in both Coalition and Empire languages. The human fleet waited in perfect formation, their simple but sturdy ships looking almost primitive next to the elegant alien vessels. At first, nothing happened. The alien ships continued their battle, ignoring the newcomers. Then, suddenly, both fleets stopped firing. The silence in space felt heavy with possibility. "Message incoming," the communications officer announced. "Both sides are responding." The main screen split in two. On the left appeared Admiral Stone of the Coalition, his white beard and aged face showing surprise. On the right was Commander Ray of the Empire, her crystalline features reflecting light in rainbow patterns. "Who dares interrupt our sacred war?" Commander Ray demanded, her translated voice carrying centuries of pride. Admiral West stood tall. "We are representatives of Earth, a planet that has watched your conflict from afar. We come with a solution to end your war." Both alien leaders laughed. The sound was different from human laughter. Harder, colder, born from centuries of battle. "Little species," Admiral Stone said, "you know nothing of our war. Our conflict is beyond your understanding. Your ships look like children's toys compared to ours." Dr. Thomas stepped forward on Earth's bridge. "We understand more than you think. You fight with plasma weapons against energy shields. You've been matching each other's technology for 300 years. Neither side can win because you're both fighting the same way." The alien leaders stopped laughing. Commander Ray leaned forward, her crystalline form shifting slightly. "You speak with unusual confidence for such a young race." "We are young," Admiral West agreed. "That's why we can see what you've forgotten. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones." "Demonstrate," Admiral Stone demanded. "Show us this solution you claim to have." Admiral West nodded to his weapons officer. "Target the empty space between our ships and the nearest asteroid field." A single human ship moved forward. It was small, perhaps 1/10 the size of the alien vessels. The alien leaders watched with mild amusement as the ship prepared to fire. What happened next made both alien fleets go completely silent. The human ship fired a simple kinetic round, just a large piece of metal, accelerated to incredible speed. It passed through the space where both alien fleets had been fighting, completely unaffected by their energy shields. When it hit the asteroid, the space rock shattered into thousands of pieces. "Impossible," Commander Ray whispered. "Our shields only stop energy weapons." Dr. Thomas finished for her. "You've both spent centuries perfecting defenses against each other's attacks, but you never considered that someone might fight differently." The human fleet moved into a new formation. Small devices detached from their ships, creating a web of gravitational distortion that would have torn apart the aliens' carefully planned formations. "This is just a demonstration," Admiral West said calmly. "We have no desire to fight, but we can end your war if you're willing to listen." The alien leaders were silent for a long moment. 300 years of warfare had taught them to be suspicious, but they couldn't deny what they'd just seen. These simple humans, with their primitive ships, had just shown them a way to break their endless stalemate. "We will listen," Admiral Stone said finally. Commander Ray nodded slowly. "Speak, humans. Tell us your plan." Admiral West smiled slightly. The first step was complete. Earth had gotten their attention. Now came the hard part, showing two ancient civilizations how to make peace. The next 5 hours would change the galaxy forever. The meeting room aboard Earth's Hope was unlike anything the alien leaders had seen before. No crystal decorations, no advanced holographic displays, just a simple table with chairs and a basic screen on the wall. Admiral Stone and Commander Ray sat across from each other, both trying not to show their surprise at the room's simplicity. Admiral West spread a paper map on the table. The alien leaders exchanged glances. Actual paper, like their ancestors had used thousands of years ago. "Sometimes," Dr. Thomas said, noticing their reactions, "the old ways are the best ways." Jack, now promoted to chief engineer, pointed to the map showing both fleets' positions. "Your war has 3 main problems," he began. First, you're both using the same technology. Second, you've forgotten other ways to fight exist. And third, he paused, looking at both leaders, you're both too proud to admit this war is pointless. Pointless. Commander Ray's crystalline form flickered with anger. We fight for control of the galaxy. And how's that working out? Admiral West asked calmly. 300 years. Billions dead. And neither side controls anything more than they did when you started. Admiral Stone's aged face showed a flicker of doubt. What exactly are you proposing? Dr. Thomas pressed a button, and the screen came to life. It showed a simple diagram of new ship formations and defense systems. We can show you how to protect against both energy and physical weapons. Your shields can be modified to stop both. But that would make both our weapons useless, Commander Ray protested. Exactly, Jack said with a smile. If neither side can hurt the other, you'll have to find another way forward. The human team laid out their plan step by step. They would demonstrate new defense systems that could stop all types of attacks. They would show how current battle tactics were wasteful and ineffective. Most importantly, they would prove that both sides had more to gain from peace than war. Your civilizations are amazing, Admiral West continued. You've built ships that can cross galaxies. You've mastered energy we can barely understand. But you've wasted it all trying to destroy each other. Commander Ray stood up suddenly, her crystal form casting rainbow patterns on the wall. And what if we turn our weapons on your fleet instead? Your 50 ships against our thousands. The room fell silent. Then Jack started laughing. What's so funny, human? Admiral Stone demanded. We've been watching your battle tactics for weeks, Jack explained. Your ships can't hit what they can't predict. Our 50 ships could run circles around your fleets. We'd be gone before your plasma weapons could even power up. Dr. Thomas pulled up another display, showing simulations of human ships easily evading alien attack patterns. But that's not why we're here. We're here to help you end this war. Why? Commander Ray asked. Why does our war matter to you? Admiral West stood up, his expression serious. Because in 50 years, your war will reach Earth. We'd rather help you end it peacefully now than be forced to end it violently later. The alien leaders watched more simulations, saw more demonstrations of human ingenuity. Their ancient technology, refined over centuries, was being outthought by simple solutions from a young species. How long? Admiral Stone finally asked. How long to implement these changes? 5 hours, Jack replied confidently. We've already prepared everything. We just need your agreement. Commander Ray and Admiral Stone looked at each other. 3 centuries of hatred and war hung between them. But there was something else too, a tiredness that ran deep into their souls. 5 hours to end 300 years of war, Commander Ray whispered. Sometimes, Dr. Thomas said gently, the best solutions are the simplest ones. The alien leaders turned to Admiral West. We agree, they said almost in unison. The Admiral nodded and pressed his communicator. All ships, begin Operation New Dawn. The 5 hours start now. The next 5 hours would prove that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their weapons or their ships. It was their ability to think differently. The human fleet split into 5 groups, each led by an experienced captain. Admiral West's voice echoed across all communication channels. Operation New Dawn begins now. Earth's ships moved between the massive alien fleets with perfect precision. They looked tiny compared to the enormous warships of both sides, like small birds flying between giants. But these birds had a plan. Jack's voice came through the comm system. Beginning shield modifications on the command ships first. Remember everyone, we've practiced this. Keep it simple, keep it clean. The first hour was like watching a careful dance. Human ships approached the alien vessels, their small size allowing them to slip easily through the gaps in their formations. Special devices attached to the alien ship's shield generators, beginning the transformation process. ###Hour 2. Sir, called out a sensor officer on Earth's Hope. Coalition ships are powering up weapons. A group of coalition warships, either from fear or habit, had begun charging their plasma cannons. They fired green beams of energy toward the nearest Empire ships. But this time was different. The modified shields on the Empire vessels flared with a new kind of light. The plasma weapons splashed harmlessly against them, but so did the kinetic rounds fired in response. Perfect, Dr. Thomas said, watching the data. The new shields are working exactly as planned. Admiral West's voice remained calm. Continue with Phase 2. Show them what else we can do. Hour 3. By the third hour, panic began spreading through both alien fleets. Their weapons, refined over centuries, couldn't damage the modified shields. Their perfect formations started breaking apart as they tried to find new ways to fight. Release the gravity buoys, ordered Admiral West. Small devices launched from the human ships, creating a web of gravitational distortion between the fleets. Any ship that tried to maintain their old battle formations found themselves pulled off course. Commander Ray's voice crackled over the comm. What have you done to our ships? We're showing you that your old ways of fighting don't work anymore, Admiral West replied. Now watch what happens next. Hour 4. The fourth hour brought the biggest challenge. The command ships of both fleets needed to be modified together, requiring perfect timing and trust from both sides. This is impossible, Admiral Stone protested. Our command ships have never been this close without firing. Jack's voice came through, confident and clear. That's exactly why we're doing it. Sometimes impossible things are only impossible because nobody tried them before. The human ships guided the massive alien command vessels into position. Their modified shields glowed with new energy as the final changes were made. For the first time in 300 years, the leaders of both fleets could see each other clearly across space. Hour 5. The last hour was the quietest. Both alien fleets hung in space, their weapons useless, their formations broken, their old ways of fighting impossible. But instead of chaos, there was a strange peace. Final phase, Admiral West announced. Dr. Thomas, show them the future. The main screens on every ship lit up with images of what could be. Alien ships working together, combining their technologies for exploration instead of destruction. Trade routes replacing battle lines. A galaxy at peace. Your weapons can't hurt each other anymore, Admiral West said to both leaders. Your old tactics don't work. You have two choices: learn to live together, or waste another 300 years trying to find new ways to fight. Commander Ray's crystalline form seemed to soften. 3 centuries of war, ended by a species that barely left their planet. Sometimes, Admiral Stone replied, his aged voice carrying new hope, we need children to teach us what we've forgotten. The 5 hours were nearly over. Across both fleets, weapons powered down. Shield generators hummed with their new modifications. The galaxy was about to change. Admiral West stood on his bridge, looking at the alien fleets that now hung peacefully in space. Send the final message, he ordered. The words appeared on every screen in every ship. The war is over. The peace begins now. The 5 hours had passed. 300 years of war had ended. And humanity had shown that sometimes the greatest victories come not from fighting, but from thinking differently about how to make peace. 1 month after the 5-hour intervention, the galaxy was a very different place. The massive meeting hall on Earth's Hope now hosted representatives from both former enemy civilizations. The room buzzed with conversation as alien scientists and engineers worked side by side with humans. Admiral West walked in, followed by Commander Ray and Admiral Stone. The old enemies now sat next to each other, their previous hatred replaced by a shared sense of embarrassment at their centuries of pointless fighting. The trade routes are open, Commander Ray announced, her crystalline form glowing with a softer light than before. For the first time in 300 years, our peoples are meeting in peace. Jack rushed into the room, holding a tablet. His excitement was clear on his face. "The combined shield technology is working better than we expected," he said. "When we mix Empire crystal tech with coalition energy systems and human practical design, the results are amazing." Dr. Thomas smiled as he watched alien and human engineers gather around Jack's tablet. "It's funny," he said to no one in particular, "how quickly enemies can become friends when they stop trying to destroy each other." Admiral Stone stroked his white beard thoughtfully. "Our civilizations wasted centuries fighting over who had the better technology. Now we find that all our technologies work better when we share them." The main screen showed images from across former battle zones. Ships that once fired at each other now work together to rebuild damaged stations. Crystal technology merged with coalition energy systems to create new types of ships, stronger and faster than anything before. "We've received requests from 30 other species to join the peace talks," Admiral West said, reading from his notes. "Apparently, we weren't the only ones watching your war. We were just the first ones brave enough, or maybe foolish enough, to step in." Commander Ray turned to face the human admiral. "Foolish. You ended in 5 hours what we couldn't end in 3 centuries. Because we didn't know it was impossible," Jack said with a grin. "Sometimes being young and inexperienced is an advantage. We hadn't learned enough to know what couldn't be done." The room fell quiet as a new image appeared on the main screen. A massive construction project was underway where the final battle had taken place. Crystal towers rose into space, connected by bridges of pure energy, all protected by the new combined shield technology. "The Galactic Peace Center," Admiral Stone explained. "Built by all 3 of our peoples, using all 3 of our technologies. A reminder of how the youngest species in the galaxy taught the oldest ones how to make peace." Dr. Thomas walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "Have you decided what to do with all your warships?" Commander Ray nodded. "Most will be converted for exploration and trade, but we're keeping some as a reminder. Their modified weapons and shields will show future generations that peace isn't about having better weapons. It's about being willing to think differently." "And what about Earth?" Admiral Stone asked. "What will humanity do now that you've brought peace to the galaxy?" Admiral West looked around the room at humans and aliens working together. "We'll do what we've always done. Learn, explore, try new things, make mistakes, and fix them. And most importantly, keep reminding everyone that sometimes the best solutions are the simplest ones." Outside the window, ships from all 3 civilizations flew past in formation. Their different designs, crystal, energy, and simple human construction, reflected the light of distant stars. Each was beautiful in its own way, but together they were something entirely new. The war that had raged for 3 centuries had ended in just 5 hours. But the peace that followed would last far longer, built on the simple idea that different ways of thinking weren't a reason for war. They were an opportunity for growth. As the meeting continued, Admiral West smiled to himself. Humanity had joined a galactic community, not with superior weapons or advanced technology, but with something far more powerful: the ability to look at old problems in new ways. The future was bright, and it belonged to all of them, together.